Next, we will have our first session today. We will explore how deep-rooted culture and history shape urban policy. The topic is when culture, history root deep, cultural continuity and systematic shifts in urban policy.
And at this juncture, let's welcome our speakers. Professor Shiqiao from the University of Virginia. Professor Li, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm very grateful that I'm invited to talk here. It's an exciting mix of public, art community, arts council, but also developers. You know, this is really, and academics. I have 15 minutes, so I'm going to jump straight away into my topic. I want to begin with this thought that Italian writer Italo Calvino wrote a book called Invisible Cities, and he was describing 55 cities to Kublai Khan. This is a novel, it's just imagination. After he described all of them, he said to Kublai Khan, every time I describe a city, I'm saying something about Venice. So what is really interesting about this, you know, academics and teachers of architecture love this book, and the students, you know. What is interesting about this book is that a great city must have layers, not just one, but we're talking about 55 here. So today, even though I'm talking about Hong Kong as a Chinese city, I'm actually I want you to keep in mind that Hong Kong is a city of multiple cultural legacies and multiple kinds of economies and multiple communities. So, you know, you can certainly talk about Hong Kong as multinational finance and shopping, or even hiking. I love hiking, you know, I know all the Hong Kong's trails. English high tea, I don't know, maybe expat communities. So what is it like to understand Hong Kong as a Chinese city? In 2014, Esther Lawrence and I published a book, and it's called Kowloon Cultural District. So that was the time when West Kowloon Cultural District was being designed and built and so on. It was a hugely costly project. But it was really presented, you know, I'm being a little bit critical here, that it was presented as kind of generic international cultural facilities, ignoring where the cultures are really found in Hong Kong, which is Kowloon. So this book is about that. And so, you know, you talk about Tai Pai Dong, and we actually used studios and student works and to really focus on what you can find in Kowloon that's actually not promoted in the West Kowloon Cultural District. So we went to study a lot, you know, I mean, the book is still available. It's published by NCCM. Mary Chan, it was amazing, she's amazing. You can still buy it, and we went and this talked about or investigated the smells of Hong Kong and, you know, what made it, and we talked about the idea of the phenomenon of bookshops upstairs, you know, upstairs bookshop. It's really amazing spaces, and you go in, they're oases of contemplation and study. And we then measured why this is the case, you know, the rental cost and so on and so forth. And students, you know, of course, Yulan Festival, investigations of the bamboo structures and so on. So we did a lot of this work. And even forgotten plants in Hong Kong, where we did presentations and installations and so on. And then there were speculative designs. We have one that's kind of tested out by Dr. Mocha Him. I'm embarrassing him now. This is actually his project. It's a beautiful one. Yes, you have a question? Yes. So you can ask him. He actually did a lot of research on what Shiqiao means in Hong Kong. and how do you actually have an archive of Shiqiao culture. And it's a beautiful design project, as you can see, yeah. And there's a plant archive and so on. So these are actually the thoughts that we put in, and I think it's still worth revisiting a lot of the issues. And today I want to bring something which is very specific. The topic that's given to me is very broad, and I don't really want to talk about everything. So let's take the idea of what it means for Hong Kong as a Chinese city. A couple of years ago, well, not a couple of years, I think around the same time we published the Kowloon Cultural District. They also wrote this book, and it's published in London, called Understanding the Chinese City. And then I started to kind of think about maybe, there are three fundamental frameworks, perspectives that we can take to really understand the distinct differences in Chinese cities: abundance, prudence, and figuration. This is really not a place to go through all these theories and so on. I just want to instead use a couple of examples in contemporary architectural design to make it a little bit more vivid and accessible. I want to talk about the idea of maybe two aspects of it, and one is deep space, and the other is figuration, and what that means in Chinese architecture, in China, in Chinese gardens, and so on, and what it means in a contemporary context. Cities are different. People are different in cities. If I ask the simple question, where's a good place to eat? The European cities is probably you sit on a nice public square. In Hong Kong, you go to a room like that, Or where's a good place to relax? I know we all recognize Hong Kong. Not on a beach, not in the sun, not in the wind, and so on. So you really understand that spaces are not generic. You cannot just do one that's right for one city and then move that to another city. I want to show you two projects, and the first one is by amazing architect, Mr. Liu Yichun. He works in Shanghai. His firm is called Atelier Das House. And recently, it's just opened a project that he designed for the artist Lu Mingjun. If you know him, he's actually famous for making this huge laughing faces and sculptures and so on. So one of his painting series is called Labyrinth. He made this incredible Chinese space. It's just layers and after layers of walls and interiors and so on. I don't know whether, is this the pointer? Yeah. So this is actually a wall painting from Dunhuang. That's from 9th century, 10th century. It's an old painting of a Buddhist temple in China that's then painted in Dunhuang. And I think his painting was certainly inspired by that kind of deep cultural tradition, imagining what a space could be like. And Liu Yichun, being a very inspired architect, did this plan, which is basically comes from that painting and this architecture in Shanghai. It's just finished. Well, it's actually not finished. I visited it when it was just still doing the last finishing touches. Inside the spaces is just interior after interior. It's just like a mysterious, incredible, enlightening space. I could imagine that this being extremely popular with a lot of people. The second project is by Mr. Zhang Ke, a standard architecture based in Beijing, but he teaches in Harvard. I just taught with him a studio in University of Virginia. We had a blast, and it was a really great studio that we had. He did this project, which is just finished, I think, in April. He lives in Boston, so he had not seen it himself yet, but I took students with Esther Lawrence, and we visited this place. I thought it was just absolutely amazing. I would like to describe it as a gigantic piece of Taihu stone in a Chinese garden. It's porous. I mean, you might say that this is Le Corbusier or whatever, but it's not. It's actually incredible. Looking from one space, one frame to another, and look through it, look beyond it. You know, it's exactly like what you experience in Chinese garden. Please, if you want, please commission a project from him, really. I really think he's the best around in the world. Yeah. What? I told him that I'm going to promote your project. You know, you might get a job out of this. I really think that he's one of the best architects in the world, and he's way up there with, you know, Peter Zumthor and whatever you can find in Europe. So I tell you, extremely popular project, and it's all full of these people going there to take photos, influencers. And this is actually the most famous window, apparently, according to Xiaohongshu. People queue up to take a view from there. Yeah, it's an art museum. It's really about art. I don't think this piece of architecture is expensive. You know, it's a very simple. I don't think it costed a lot. This is some pages. This is random pages from Xiaohongshu and people posting their experiences in this building. The building is actually an endless loop of endless views. And it's just so complex, but so simple. It's incredibly good. And I asked Zhang Ke, I said, can you show me, give me some images of people posting? And he made this, his staff made this collage, and you can look endlessly. It's just amazing. Clearly, these people came here for the architecture, and it's just how attractive and how amazing an architecture can be. And this is not exaggerating. It is really so stunning. Yeah. Anyway, it's not advancing. So I want to argue that these actually are unique art and architectural creations that are very attractive to contemporary users, but they're actually great examples of something that's rooted in Chinese culture. This is really, it's Chinese, but then it's totally international and global. This is what like the entire world is kind of admiring, what the new works coming from China. Look at the plan, and look at the traditional house plan. You see the similarities, right? And this is, you know, culture, creativity can come up with. So the influences in Zhang Ke's building is actually not that different from influences in Chinese gardens. Traditional Chinese gardens, you'll find there's just so many of them. You know, I was just there a couple of weeks ago, and this is my photo, and she's completely absorbed in herself in this amazingly beautiful garden. This is a Shizhiling, the Lion's Grove in Suzhou. This is in Zhuozhengyuan. It's just, they're not any models or anything. They're just ordinary people wanting to enjoy architecture and art. Yeah, I kind of feel good about that. You know, it's really not commercial promotion. They're not promoting any products at all. They're just there, you know, just feeling good about themselves. And why not, you know? And enjoying laughter after a photo. And they just set up everywhere. It's just crazy amount. And in Chanlangting in Suzhou, they took up all their cafe space. You know, it's all of them. It's like all influences. I couldn't find a place. So how does the money work? You know, this is really what I find fascinating, that it could work in China. It's not perfect, I have to say. There's all kinds of accidents and, all kinds of coincidences and so on, difficulties. I'm running out of time, right? I'll be there. So I think it takes forward-looking capital, not impatient capital. You don't want to return like the next day, but you have to invest in the long-term future of a city. And this is really, art is great for a city like, 798 in Beijing or M50 in Shanghai or even Fotan in Hong Kong. Fotan is never developed in the scale of 798, but there's a common sentiment. There's also forward-looking investments like OCT, Vanke, or Westbund in Shanghai. I want to give you one example quickly. Is a very young developer called Aranya. Aranya is started in Hebei in the city of Qinhuangdao and is guided by a very, very young man, Ma Ying. The company, I think it's right to say it, that they invest in emotions. Think about that, yeah? Not real estate, but emotions. That's where the money is. Dong Gong, another amazing architect, vector architect, and who is also a Tsinghua graduate, he said that architecture practically saved the whole development of Ranya's development in Beidaihe in Qinhuangdao. These projects, they're very popular in social media, and they're reported by, Guardian newspaper, and it's kind of all over the world. And their 10,000 residential units are selling 4 times the price as the average property development. Think about that. And there's another project called Jinshanling, which is a golden mountain in about 120 kilometers away from Beijing. Liu Yichun and Tilia Death House designed this incredibly beautiful contemplation, meditation space. It's not a Buddhist temple. I think in China, probably he was not allowed to call it a Buddhist temple, but it was a meditation space. It was really kind of spiritual. It's incredibly beautiful, and maybe you say it's like Japanese architecture, but then it's actually like Chinese architecture in the Tang Dynasty was the origin of Japanese architecture. If you go to Japan, you're like visiting Tang Dynasty, So this is really where he was trying to get at, that there was a kind of deeper tradition in China that produces spaces like this, like this, like this, in contemporary materials and design methods. So I guess in conclusion, I want to say that think about Hong Kong also as a Chinese city and invest in Hong Kong's emotions with art and architecture. I think this community understands that motivation. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Lee. Please remain on stage for our following panel response. Please stay with us. Thank you. First, let's welcome our moderator of the session, Professor Mo from CUHK on stage. Professor Mo, please. Professor Mo has been instrumental in shaping the Future Imagineer Academy, FIA, together with Issy Zhang at UHK, Dr. Nora Wang from PolyU, and Dr. Sky from HKUST. Together, they develop teaching programs in consecutive semesters, bringing students to Tai Kok Tsui to study the neighborhood, to talk to the residents, and also to brainstorm actionable designs to connect the new and the old. Now, without further ado, please also welcome our panelists on stage. First, we have Professor Raymond Fong, Chairman of the Arts Program Committee at the Hong Kong Arts Centre. Please welcome. Next, we have Professor Ling Ka Ken, Director of the Jockey Club Design Institute for Social Innovation at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Welcome you all. And over to you all, our speakers.
So thank you, Professor Lee. Can I call you Shiqiao? And also welcome KK and also Raymond. So I think it's a wonderful session. That's Professor Lee just opened a very interesting and also critical as well, a dialogue to talk about how do we see Hong Kong in the future in terms of urban regeneration, in terms of how we leverage art, how we leverage architecture. So I have a lot of questions. I'm like kind of a student on the floor. So very, very enlightening. So can I open up with a question about, you talk about how to invest in emotion. I want to hear from all the panelists, how do you respond to this very interesting and also very abstract quality of a very important attributes in our city, which are currently in the policy, in our developments, probably not strongly emphasized, but very important. So can I invite our panelists to first respond to this?
I think Professor Lee raised a very, very inspiring direction for us. Invest in emotions. Yeah, right. Particularly Hong Kong. And as a reflection, let me tell you why I'm here. When I received the invitation, I don't know what is this forum about. But when I look at two information, one, it is organized by the Hong Kong Art Center, and second, it is about Tai Kok Tsui. Because of this, then I decided I must come.
Yeah.
All right. Why? Because as I before the beginning of the forum, I shared with Peter that the first locally created drama performance staged at the Susan Theatre was by my drama group when I was a secondary school student. The drama group called the John School Drama Project. It's a secondary school drama organization, and by that time I was the chairman.
Yeah.
I still remember we need to print, the map telling people where to get down from the bus stop and walk across the flyover, the Pitan footbridge, and then reach the Hong Kong Art Center. All right, and Tai Kok Tsui, my secondary school, my alma mater, was located in Tai Kok Tsui. So I'm very familiar with the place, at least the place in the early 70s. So because of these two emotions, I decided I must come. When you talk about emotion, and I must let you know that the current very typical Hong Kong drinks, right, that called coffee, milk tea, 奶茶, yin yang, or the mix of coffee and milk tea, lemon tea, lemon water, all these things. I only had the first taste of the drinks when I was a child worker, worked in a Tai Kok Tsui factory, garment making factory, in my Form 2.
Yeah, illegally.
No,
Yeah.
it's 14 years. I'm more than 14 years by that time, all right? So it is legal. It was when I was in my Form 2 vacation, looking for the promotion to Form 3.
Yes.
I worked in the factory, and then all the姐姐, all the older sisters, they are the garment making, workers. Because I treat them very efficiently, very well, they buy me, alternatively, all right, in turn, buy me this sort of coffee, everything, when during the tea time. And that was the first time.
They like 小鮮肉 because.
Yeah, it was the first time I taste all these drinks other than water and Chinese tea.
Yes.
So that is emotion. That's emotion, and then you can imagine how rich is the local culture of Tai Kok Tsui.
Can I just take that, and it's a really great example, the textile. We actually have one chapter on the Hong Kong textile the industry that basically just disappeared. You can still find some little bit of vestiges, maybe in Mongkok and somewhere, which we did. We tried to do that investigation. But take the tea as an example. I think it really, to me, the tea is life. It's human-centered. Then there is actually a space around it, where you can make it. Where do you sit down? How do you sit down? What do you look at when you sit down? And how does the architecture look like? So there's that. And then there's the architecture itself, like what does it say? I think what's amazing about these examples that I just saw in China, I got really excited. I think my American students are completely excited. They just had never seen anything like that in United States. Is the way that the architecture can use its creativity to create something permanent, almost iconic. And it really stands there to tell you the value of this cultural activity, which is the tea house, which has the tea. So it's this whole set that you cannot just do the tea without the architecture, So this is really, for the developers here sitting in the audience, I really would like to kind of think with you together and how that investment will increase the value of Hong Kong. Will not, if you only build an opera house, Italian opera house, it's not going to work, in a way that I think Italians, the Italian opera house, the singing came from some kind of country song singing anyway, the kind of vernacular singing, and gradually you cultivate it, they become an art form, So this is really how you should understand that, whatever ballet or Italian opera, opera singing, they were vernacular forms. They were just like you found them on the street, and then you put them in a cultivated cultural context, and that's how you create a culture like that.
Well, I think for me to elaborate on KK Ling and Dr. Shiqiao's point is that I can tell that there is a very major difference in terms of the attributes of culture between China and Hong Kong. Because in China, you can see that, they always like to be very proud of having the most beautiful cultural venues, around the town. And that's why you can show us very many of those. And in fact, we will be seeing many of those, for many years in China because of this major development. Being culture also stands for, very nice architecture or very nice art space. Whereas for culture in Hong Kong, we always focus on, food, on eating, on cuisine, on the style of living, which you can see very many in Tai Kok Tsui. For me, of course, I'm not as familiar as KK Ling on Tai Kok Tsui because I just come across this area, after this project, being launched. But at the same time, of course, you can see in very many places in Hong Kong, in particular Tai Kok Tsui, when one of our colleagues led me to walk around, I can see that there are a lot of bars and a lot of, the local, the food places, whether this is no more Dai Pai Dong, but it's still a lot of the, the food as a culture, which is also the major attributes for Hong Kong people to enjoy the kind of a culture in Hong Kong. So I think it will take some time for Hong Kong to going generally, generating into building better architecture or, very nice cultural venues associating with, developers. Yeah. So far, developers knowing that what really brings people to buy the flat is to have the best clubhouse, which means all sorts of activities and all sorts of food and, major department stores. But of course, department store is kind of declining, but still, you're talking about a lot of food places, a lot of restaurants. But I think it would take some time for, architecture to take, a better positioning as to become the pride of a city. Even though we have started with West Kowloon Cultural District, but still I think there's still a long way to go from furthermore. that Hong Kong has to go for the change, I think China is a very good example that we have to follow. Oh, yeah, pass on to you.
Thank you. Can I have a follow-up question? When we talk about the kind of a vernacular culture, how that could be cultivated through art and architecture, and to elevate it into a state that we can be so proud of it, and it becomes the kind of identity that we can use to leverage for profits and stuff, right? But Hong Kong is kind of stuck in the middle in a way. We have the quality of Chinese, and definitely we have a quality of Western as well. But when we try to integrate with the Greater Bay Area, we start to sort of search for our identity again. So how do you see, in terms of like developers, in terms of like policymakers, planners, how do we see navigate in this search? And we are in the middle of sort of massive changes in terms of economy, in terms of like the land use planning as well. And also we can also see different developments in the new territories. So would there be any leverage points that we can use to consolidate our identity? Or is there a means or a reason to consolidate it because it's changing?
That, I think, is a great question. I think that question is somewhat, what's kind of also partly driving what I'm saying. I think Hong Kong has absolutely amazing advantages compared with Chinese cities. Chinese cities, to me, they have disadvantages because they're very monocultural. They're trying so hard to be international, and Hong Kong does it effortlessly. So this is really, to me, why you should really look at Hong Kong like Italo Calvino's Venice. It's 55 cities, not one. So if you talk about cultural identity of Hong Kong, there isn't one. But it's okay to not have only one. So this is really my argument is, it is a British city. There's no question about it. Read the street names, But it's also a Chinese city. There's no question about it, It's an expat city. It's a commerce city. It's a city of shops, and So I definitely think that this multiple cities nature for Hong Kong is the way to imagine Hong Kong's role in its collaboration with the Greater Bay Area. I don't think it's I don't think it's a great strategy to let kind of Hong Kong be swallowed up by Shenzhen's Bay. They wouldn't like it. You wouldn't like it. This is really not a wise way forward. The way forward is to maintain this kind of inherent, effortless international city that Hong Kong is, and cultivate all the layers, not one, all the layers. And today, of course, I talk about the Chinese layer, which is what, Mo told me to say. Or you could easily talk about all the other layers that make Hong Kong a great city.
I would like to echo Professor Lee's talking about the multiple layers. And these layers are actually mingled together. They're very chaotic. It is not, yes. And perhaps, while I'm here, I think I can tell a little bit more story, all right? In my opinion, what is important to enable art that can survive and thrive in city really depends on three things. One is the program. The other is the space. And the third is the facilities. Let me talk about program and facilities first. Maybe a joke. When I was a small boy, all right, from 2 something, I still have a little bit of petty money. Then one day, I come across a big poster. I don't know where it is. And I say, the ticket for a concert is $1. And I think, okay, $1, I can still afford to pay that $1. And is it worth? Then I look at it, oh, there will be Boston Philharmonic. There will be Venice Philharmonic. $1. So I bought the ticket. And then I walked into, on that day, I walked into City Hall concert hall. All right? When I sit there, it's almost full. It's almost full. And I saw on the stage, there's nothing on the stage. Then where are the Philharmonics? When I look at the photos, at least on the poster, there are musicians. Yeah. Where are they? And then a gentleman came up. Oh, now our hi-fi concert starts. Now it's Boston Philharmonic, and then a black plastic, play put on it. Yeah. And by that time, I don't know what is hi-fi. Why hi-fi? I have no idea. All right, and then this $1 hi-fi concept opened my understanding about the Philharmonic. That's the first time I heard about it. So that's the program, this $1 program. And then that's a facility, the City Hall. And then my second story, I hope you may like it, is space and facility. Or some people here in this room may know about a passed away local artist, Ko Tin Long. All right? He's my classmate. We know each other when we was Form 2, since Form 2, and then we keep on collaborating to do the performance, drama performance.
Yeah, I think Art Center may have some engagement with Ko
Yes,
Tin Long before.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That drama I talk about was performed by Ko Tin Long as the main character, all right? Mm-hmm. And when we were Form 4, after we joined the John School Drama Project in the Form 3 summer vacation, then there's a very important campaign in Hong Kong called Clean Hong Kong Campaign. Mm-hmm. Make Hong Kong cleaner, all right? Yeah. And then suddenly my headmaster is Brother Gregory, summoned both of us to his headmaster's room. We are very frightened, all right? Summoned by the headmaster, have we done anything wrong? And then Brother Gregory told us, okay, we received a invitation from the government talking about to do something to support the Clean Hong Kong campaign. Then I know that both of you just joined a John School Drama Project. You must know some drama. Please produce a drama to support that. And then that is the first, all right, start. We start writing script jointly between Ko Tin Long and me. And then and last time we performed that drama in Tai Kok Tsui, playground, outdoor.
Wow.
Outdoor. We organize our classmates and then, all right, carry out the performance, and at the end of the day, our reward to our drama team is a brother Vincent, who is in charge of the snack shop, bring us a bottle of Coca-Cola, free of charge, and everything, drink it. All right, so that's a very important award during our research. And then after that, that's a space. That's a space, the common space that the government make use of it to enable a secondary school students, to perform a drama production. And later on, we keep on our drama production in City Hall Theatre to the Hong Kong Art Center. And of course, at one time, we produced 2 drama productions in Lee Theatre before it was demolished. So these are program, space, and facilities are very important, and they are interplaying with each other, and the outcome is unimaginable. All are unintentioned. All are unintentioned, because we were not intended to start writing script and become, director of a drama production, if not because of a very humble drama that my headmaster, Brother Gregory, asked us to produce in a Tai Kok Tsui playground just to support the Clean Hong Kong campaign. And then you can imagine how dirty Tai Kok Tsui was at that time. Otherwise, we do not need to have such a campaign, right?
Okay, I think just I wanted to elaborate upon Li Shiqiao's point about the Hong Kong China's situations, because even China, they always wanted to copy Hong Kong in hardware, right? If you go to Qinghai, wow, fabulous, wow, very. Oh yeah, they're jealous of Hong Kong, but of course you may know better. But from my perspective, actually, I think what we wanted to sustain, I think from the floor here, everybody in Hong Kong really wanted to, is to sustain the kind of spirit that we have is between East and West, which is a very good mix, and as a good compositions that we wanted to sustain and to carry on for many years after. And that's how, because we have the kind of software. It's not just hardware. Hardware, I think China has already built out a lot of very nice architecture, even though they're all in Western style. But at the same time, it's very hard for them or for China to do the same copy as Hong Kong, because we do possess our own kind of identity of being West and East in software. We still have very many Western people living in Hong Kong. And of course, there been a kind of a slowly decreasing in number, but I can tell it's only decreasing in number in terms of English speaking. But at the same time, I found that other Westerners coming to Hong Kong, they need not be, from Western Europe, but they be speaking other languages, which is also one of the values that I think Hong Kong really wanted to be very proud of and to continue on. And I think this is the kind of the value that we wanted to keep, as what I see Hong Kong is, which is very important.
I think it's very good discussion that it leads to one of the questions that I received from the floor, where when we talk about the kind of accident, or the spirit of accepting coincidence, or the spirit of gradual changes. So there's a question from the floor talking about how can we properly discuss the values of art and culture in the planning process, or where the planning process that in Hong Kong we have a great representative from the planning department from the previous experience. I think it's actually very interesting how we see the two can coexist, which would not conflict in too much, but still create a value to it. Yeah.
I mean, that's a great question. I think art is an investment. I think art is human-made. It is. You can certainly carry on build a city without art, and that's totally fine. It will function, but its life is just a little bit kind of single-dimensional, a little bit tedious. So it is. I think in the minds of the decision makers, through your experiences and studies of how actually civilization can make life better. And it's a better life. And it's really simple like that, You just, the libraries and the intellectual discussions, the drama, architecture, painting, sculpture, that's, of great quality, not just kind of mediocre architecture, but really world-class architecture. This is what you're seeing emerging in China. Actually, China, it started with mainstream, a lot of kind of imitation of Western architecture, but what I see from a new generation of Zhang Ke's generation, Liu Yuchun's generation, and Dong Gong, they are about 10 years younger than me. They bring their cultural sensitivities and sensibilities into design to produce designs that are not seen anywhere else. So this is really the kind of emerging power of that, and this is what I think that there's a potential for Hong Kong to kind of produce its own version. It will be different from China's, but it will equally, or if not more, attractive to the entire world. So I think I would say that to make art happen, it takes a whole village. The public support, but also decision makers should really think in that way. not just to think that, tomorrow how much dividend I'm going to get, but more like think about maybe in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, whether Hong Kong can, or a community, let's say Tai Kok Tsui, can bring itself to a very high level so that economically it makes sense, culturally it makes sense, it will attract people to come. Without the Dai Pai Dong, I don't know, I think maybe the city is not as attractive, I guess, but Dai Pai Dong doesn't have to remain the same. It can be redesigned, like where, I understand, I totally agree that a lot of, what Hong Kong City is about eating, but it's more than that. It's really, if you dig deep enough, you have the upstairs bookshops. Those are kind of intellectual spaces, but we just don't recognize them, Yeah. So even just about eating, there's a lot that you can do about eating that's really associated with space, and that you have the opportunity to create something that's so memorable, so creative, and so iconic, so that influencers would want to come. And, they will then bring the whole activity of, Dai Pai Dong to a different level.
Well, maybe I'd like to share a bit on this, cultural phenomenon. First of all, I think I have to give a big credit to China, because China really, for the past 20 to 30 years, has excelled the rest of the world in terms of giving opportunities to architects. They can do whatever they want to do, and therefore you can see, chunks and chunks of concrete everywhere, and which is, of course, to the Chinese officer, they find this very foreign, but in a way, we find that this is very lovely. But at the same time, coming back to the Hong Kong situation is, I'm kind of a mix, because at the same time, I can tell that for these 20-some years, after the sovereignty change, I can see there are a lot of people really, especially youngsters, are going deeper, much deeper into art, searching, which I think is a very good sign. And I did remember that when the West Kowloon Cultural District ideas brought up in Hong Kong, well, of course, people would say, oh, no, this is not for us. This is just for the Guailos, this is for the foreigners. But this is very wrong, because after so many years, you can see this kind of building up, and people start going there without, in the past that we always see ourselves as, desert for culture. I think this is no more anymore. You find people really going there. You don't have to, get anything, or you don't have to push them. They will go to see the art show. So this is promising to me, in terms of art development, in terms of cultural development. I see that it's very promising in Hong Kong. But at the same time, architecture may be coming into a little bit of a headache, because of the property market slum, and because of the opportunities for architects is getting diminishing, due to, of course, economy situations. But that is only in terms of quantity, but in terms of quality, I think, to me, I think it's still very promising. It's still very encouraging. I teach at the university, and I see that the youngsters, they do have, great minds in doing great architectures, but just that they don't have the opportunities, not like in mainland. Everybody can have opportunities to do big piece of architecture, where in Hong Kong, minor works maybe, for toilets or some renovations or some, shop refurbishment, but it would take time for architects for Hong Kong, which is now going into in a very difficult situations. But at the same time, I think the art scene is promising. This is something I feel good about Hong Kong in the future. Yeah.
Okay, in responding to Dr. Mo's question about planning and arts and culture, I must say that the Hong Kong's planning process and philosophy is very much Western and formal. Well, under this system, we did developed a number of very important cultural facilities, as I say. City Hall, the Arts Center, the Tsim Sha Tsui Cultural District, a group of facilities, and we enabled to build some sort of cultural complexes in different districts. The latest one was the East Kowloon Cultural Complex and things like that. And I do think these are very important, but at the same time, the planning system, or even the whole government system at the moment, has not put sufficient emphasis on the conservation of the more local culture, like the Da Jiu, the opera, the traditional opera developed it. They developed the pavilion, the wooden, the bamboo pavilion, and then perform the opera. So perhaps one very simple example: if you enter into City Hall, into the cultural center to watch a performance, before the performance starts, there's an announcement, right? No food and drinks are allowed. But when I was a boy, my grandma took me to watch the Cantonese opera in the playground. I didn't understand what's opera about, but why? I went with my grandma because food and drinks are allowed during the performance. So that is a very good example, talking about the very official regulation and the very grassroots practice in treating arts and culture.
Well, but before finishing by KK Ling, I really want to express one of my points that I always have in mind is I found that Hong Kong, because you represent the government before, but I was saying that the planning department, which I also engaged somehow, in one of the advisory committees, is that don't seem to have the kind of studies like what Singapore did. Is they have studies of each district and see how best the government can try very hard to sustain or to protect the kind of the identity of the individual spaces. But Hong Kong don't have. Somehow I engage in the planning process, but I find that the Hong Kong doesn't have. If not, then what about in the future of our Soho area? Because we love Soho area so much. We like the kind of a cuisine, the gift shop and all that. Then what about Yau Ma Tei? What about Sam Shui Po? And even for Tai Kok Tsui? Now all this area, I would say in the 20 years' time, it will be all disappear because it all turned into very nice, the towers and expensive hotels, expensive apartments. I hope not, but I don't seem to find the government under the planning department has such a strategy as to protect each individual areas. This answer to me.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's a cultural master plan that one needs to do. Not so much just to keep it, but to develop it. So it's more than just preserving. It's about development. Culture is living. That culture is never a good kind of legacy. So it's that master plan is the first step of developing all the cultural, all the 55 cities of Hong Kong that are all important.
So may I challenge KK Ling, please, to explain, answer my questions.
So you can understand why Raymond and me always fight with each other within the department.
Because we love Hong Kong
and we also
so much.
collaborate.
Because we love Hong Kong so much, we want to keep this place.
Yeah, I think Raymond pointed out a very important point. Actually, as I said, the whole planning and development system in Hong Kong is very, very official, very originated, following the westernized system.
On planning guidelines.
The good point is that there are a lot of naughty guys in the planning department. We always make ways to break the rules.
Okay.
And then that's important. Now, first of all, when we design open space, like when Raymond talked about the Wan Chai reclamation.
Yes.
All right, because of the very strong opposition, and then the government almost let's do that, but we insist we need to do a very reasonable extent of reclamation to accommodate the a promenade, and that is multifunctional, that you can use it for many, many purposes. And we also proposed the development of a comprehensive system of harbourfront promenade on both sides of the Victoria Harbour. Yes. We raised this in mid-1990s, and then we triggered the transformation of the function of our waterfront.
Yes.
All right, so
that's a good point.
Yeah, these are all carried out by those lucky guys in the planning department, from very senior town planners to the very junior town planner by that time, like myself.
Yeah.
And then, and I think it's important to create the multifunctional space and let this multifunctional space stay as it is. And then when the rules and regulations gradually become more accommodating, and then, we can enable changes. And then we also allow various sorts of artists, to carry out various artist activities on this sort of a higher quality public space. And then I believe that is that's important. And the other important thing is about the urban fabric, whether we can maintain the urban fabric during the redevelopment process of our city. We know that no city can avoid redevelopment, perhaps except Venice, because it is a place for tourism, all right? Yeah. But all other cities, they cannot escape, this process of redevelopment, the differences, the scale, the speed, the approach. And I believe keeping the urban fabric of our oldest areas is important. Those are narrow streets, take it away from vehicular traffic, pedestrianize it, and we even fight against the transport department's standard. Whenever we redevelop a building, we must provide, parking space and loading and loading area. That will break the shopping frontage. All right, so we fight against that, because if it is pretty close to the MTR station, then there's no need for these sort of facilities. Then we can keep the shopping frontage, and then the transport design standards very much engineering-led. All right, so there are lots of these sorts of battle fought every day within the government. Of course, the government would not amplify this to make this visible to the community, but there are, Raymond, we can prove that. All right.
Yes.
There's numerous these sort of battles, arguments, going on every day within the government, and sometimes we may win, sometimes we lose, with reasons, of course, and but I would say during this several decades of fighting with the government nowadays is much more, accommodating to this sort of street arts, common art, requirement. And of course, my colleague from Jockey Club Design Studio for Social Innovation, like Patty and Sam is here. So what we are now doing is, for the Lofton Metropolis, it will be undergoing very massive urbanization. And how, during that process, we can still, keep the local culture, local ritual practices. They can not only survive and thrive in this process. And then that is my the mission I imposed it on myself.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. In the interest of time, so thank you, KK. Thank you, Shiqiao. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for the fruitful discussion. Now, please be seated off stage. Thank you.